This week on To the Contrary.
Up first, Hillary versus Elizabeth. Then, Hobby Lobby's next project, a Bible museum in Washington. Behind the headlines, why female genital mutilation is an American problem.
Welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, women dominate the Democratic presidential field.
Hillary Clinton may need to be looking to her left as she considers her second run for the presidency. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts is getting what some are calling a rock star reception from liberals as she campaigns for Democratic candidates across the country. Ready for Warren launched this week with a website, Facebook page, and Twitter account. Supporters plan to be at all of the senator's appearances to encourage her to run. This weekend, at an annual convention of progressives called Netroots Nation, those supporters are coming face-to-face with Super PAC Ready for Hillary. That PAC, Ready for Hillary, has raised $8 million, and its leaders are working on a grassroots campaign for their candidate, who still leads in all the polls. Warren continues to say she's not running for president.
So Debra Carnahan, whether she's running or not, could she be a spoiler for Hillary Clinton?
No, I don't think she's a spoiler. I think she's actually an asset for Hillary Clinton.
I agree with Debra. I don't think she's an asset, but I think there's a long line of spoilers that she would have to stay behind, and I don't think she's there yet.
I think it's great. I think America needs more women in politics, and I don't understand why it has to be either or, and why not both.
Obviously, competition is great. My question is, who's going to go more to the right if she does run between her and Mrs. Clinton? Who's going to move more to the right in this contest?
What in the world do you mean by an asset? How could she be an asset?
I think she's an asset because she has said she's not going to run. That's pretty definitive.
Well, but she's saying that until the polls start showing that she should run.
All right, for right now, I'll take her at her word. And secondly, another strong woman out there campaigning, I think only helps Hillary and helps the perception that, yes, we are ready for more women leadership in higher positions more visibly. I think it makes Hillary look stronger as a woman, that she's not the only one out there.
You know, in Washington, there's a saying that nobody believes a rumor until it's denied. And I think that's right. But, you know, I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think the Democratic Party is giving Hillary the opening. But you've got Biden, you've got O'Malley, who's raised millions of dollars. You've got, there's another candidate. Well, there's a lot of candidates that are long ahead of Elizabeth. But she's basking in the glow of attention.
I think I agree with you that she is an asset, but not for the same reasons that you said. I mean, America is currently ranking 75th for the number of women that they have in government. So I think the more women we can see that are qualified to run for the top job, that are running for the top job, I mean, that's a great message to women, period, around the world.
Well, you know, I think that between the two, it would be an interesting contest. And, I don't know if I agree so much as an asset as I think maybe a thorn in Hillary's side to some degree, because some of the things that
she'll siphon off money, she'll siphon off votes, and she'll force Hillary, if anything, to go further left. And, you know, I can just see the same... the left wing of the party, just like the right wing of the Republican Party, taking the party down towards a nomination of Elizabeth Warren, who has absolutely no chance of winning the general.
Having done numerous campaigns in my life and numerous primaries, one of the worst things you can have is a coronation. We saw that last time with Barack Obama and Hillary, and that's why I say she's an asset. She's strong. I don't think she can beat Hillary. I think she will eventually, go back and support Hillary. She said she's supporting her now. It's exactly why we have this pact with Hillary. Hillary doesn't want to be out there in front so early and being attacked. And Elizabeth out there, Elizabeth takes away some of the attacks on Hillary, some of the focus. I think she's an asset. I really do, for
or
that
maybe
reason.
Hillary can do what Obama did with her, which is, hey, why don't you join my administration? Why don't you be my Secretary of State? Why don't you be my Vice President? That's what I'm saying. Hey, the more women, the better.
Well, he had to beat her first, though.
Right.
He could say that.
He had to beat her. But there's
What about the others? What about at this point? I mean, I keep thinking in my mind that 2016 is going to be another 28. She's going to come in as the front runner, and somebody comes out of nowhere, and she self-destructs, as she sort of did several weeks ago. You know, the line about we were broke, and she's had to backtrack, and all the bad publicity around Chelsea's, you know, job that clearly, if her last name were Clinton, she would not be getting. Somebody's going to come in there. I wonder, quite frankly, why Senator Gillibrand from New York is not, because she's more centrist. She could get independent and even some conservative votes in the general election. Why isn't there more talk about her right now? Warren is just not presidential material with her stances as far left as they are.
Right. Well, you know, maybe there isn't talk about her because maybe she's not interested in doing it, number one. I mean, that's a possibility. Not everybody wants to be president in the Senate, although most do.
why not Olympia Snowe? Why not Susan Collins?
Well,
we've got some really good.
Olympia Snow's not a Democrat.
No.
Yeah, so we can't throw her in our primary.
We need diversity. She's you know,
Well,
she's
she
off
certainly
the
can run as an
Senate,
independent.
and
When you talked about the Senate, I just have to tell this old story. I covered Capitol Hill in the 80s, and there was a story about Rudy Boschwitz, who was a senator, Republican from Minnesota, and one of the senators from Hawaii who was born in Japan, I believe. And they're sitting there watching the Senate in session, and Boschwitz turns to the Hawaii senator and says, you know, we're the only two guys in this room, and at that point it was guys, who aren't running for president, and that's because we can't. They were born in foreign countries. So, you know, that is, but I really...
Well, I was just going to say, although I may not support the party that is in this fight for the next presidency, I will say it's a refreshing thing to see that we have more women. I mean, who would have thought? You know, I mean, we had Dukakis, back in the 80s when we had Ferraro. Sorry, yeah, when she and that was kind of like that teaser, like, oh, look, a woman might be able to run. So, I mean, in that sense, I think it's a good thing.
But I don't think the guys are going to, you know, step to the side.
I didn't say that.
Got O'Malley. You've got Cuomo. You've got a whole lot of others that if Hillary doesn't run, they're all going to jump in. They're not going to give it open.
Are they going to jump in if she doesn't? Even if she does run? Somebody, she's not going to run. She's not going to be the sole candidate for the nomination.
No, but I think she's going to have a good start. I mean, you know, the Clinton dynasty is pretty strong in the Democratic Party, and there are lots of
ready for Hillary
to be cashed in. Yeah.
You know, when you're evaluating a presidential election like this, you know, I don't think if you want to be president of the United States, you have to have the fire in your belly. You have to have a certain amount of ego. You got to believe that you can do it, and you have to really want it because it's grueling. And these people are not going to stand aside just because Hillary says, "I want it."
Yeah.
All right. Let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Urbay or at To The Contrary. From politics to religion.
The family that owns Hobby Lobby plans to build a Bible museum in Washington, D.C., just 2 blocks from the National Mall. The Green family won a Supreme Court case that allows their company to deny contraception coverage to its employees. Family members have called the Bible, quote, a reliable historical document, end quote. Proponents of the separation of church and state believe the Greens want to evangelize, not educate. Secularists are particularly concerned with the museum's proximity to Congress, saying it could be used to try to influence laws. And Hobby Lobby has reason to want to affect legislation. Republicans recently blocked a bill that would have overridden the Supreme Court decision, but the Democrats were only 4 votes short. With elections looming, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has vowed the Democrats will continue to press the issue.
So, Darlene, does Washington need a Bible museum?
Well, if he wants to pay for it, so be it. I think it's kind of humorous that they're complaining it'll be a few blocks from Congress. You have the Heritage Foundation. You have a whole boatload of different organizations, the Family Research Council. You know, if he wants to do it and he's using his own money, which is really the important issue, then I don't have a problem with it. You know, and as long as he's not getting government money for it, then I don't see the problem with it at all.
I don't have a problem with somebody using their own money to build a museum. I do think it's interesting, though, that there was this huge outcry from the right when they wanted to build a community center from 9/11, like one block from the 9/11 site, and that was Muslim, and it's, oh, you can't build that, even though that was independent money and a community center. And so why is this then different than that controversy at the time?
Exactly. Actually, it was
well, there's one big difference. This is Christian. That was
there
Muslim.
You go.
Exactly. I think the question that if a Muslim family wanted to build a building dedicated to the Quran or a mosque on the National Mall, we would be having a very different conversation. That center that they were going to have by the 9/11 grounds was quickly called the Ground Zero Mosque. Oh my goodness, that was attacked to shreds. You never hear about it anymore. So I just think religion doesn't belong in legislation. Isn't that the whole point of this country?
Well, go ahead.
Well, why shouldn't, as long as there's somebody out there, I just think it's very odd that just because one, extremist family, they are on the extreme right wing. They're not, they are evangelicals. They're trying to dictate corporate policy based on their own religion because they have the money that they should be able to do this in Washington. And I have no doubt that there'll be visitors to this museum. There are tons of, of evangelicals who come to Washington.
I'm actually all for it. I think when we look at the history, when you look at our roots, it was, this whole nation, except for the Native Americans, was founded on faith. And you look at the Pledge of Allegiance, you look at the Declaration of Independence, in God we trust. When I did my swearing in, so help me God.
What happened to the separation of church and state?
I think it's part of our heritage, and I think to have a museum that reflects that history is quite appropriate.
But I don't think anybody would be. Let me just jump. Would be protesting if, for example, there's a museum of the Old Testament in Israel, and it's very historical. It's educational. They have pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but it's not at all evangelical because the Jewish religion is not evangelical, but Christianity is.
Judeo-Christian.
Well, no, but I'm saying you're ignoring the difference, which is the evangelical, the conversion, the trying to pressure people into adopting Christianity that exists, and that's offensive to all Americans who aren't
But
Christian.
There's a presumption there that they're going to proselytize because of that. There's no presumption. All they're saying is we're going to create a museum.
You actually believe?
I believe that.
They won't cry?
I just want to. I have to say, we were not founded on Judeo-Christian beliefs. We were not founded, this country, on religion. And if you go back and read the writings of Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington, they absolutely talk about separation of church and state and keeping religion out of it. In God We Trust was put on our money, back, I think it was in the 50s that it was put on. We don't say In God We Trust in the Declaration of Independence. So let's not say that anymore because it's not true. We were founded on religious freedom. Freedom.
Exactly.
And that is in the writings of the founders, of the people that wrote it. So there is cause for alarm because when I hear you saying this, to me that's just the same thing to Bonnie's point that's going to be being said. But this is our country. This is what we're founded on. We're a Christian country. We're founded on Christian country. We're not founded on a Christian country.
But to make the presumption that they're going to be proselytizing is a false one. They have collections of books. Now, if they're going to start having preachers and ministers coming through and having sermons, that's a church, and that's not what's happening.
It's not so innocent, though. It's not, and it's not so random. It's not like, oh, this company just wants to build this church. But why can't they have
the right to do
because
what they want to do?
Because they're already influencing legislation. Hobby Lobby,
well,
everybody else.
But you know what? The Religious Freedom Act that the Supreme Court upheld was passed in 1993 with President Clinton signing off on it. And the fact of the matter is, Hobby Lobby doesn't prohibit women from having contraceptives. There are at least 16 types of contraceptives they do cover.
Yes, they just won't cover it for their employees.
Oh, yes, they will. They cover 16 of them. 4 that they won't cover for religious reasons, and those women can get
that is a very dangerous precedent.
See, here's the problem with Hobby Lobby. They are not a person. They are a company. And you have a company going, I'm going to tell you what birth control I will pay for because of my religious beliefs.
They're already imposing their religious beliefs.
While they hide behind the corporate veil.
Yeah, but they interpret the court. the court interpreted that for-profit corporations could be a person just as non-for-profit corporations can be a person. They shouldn't be punished because they happen to be a for-profit corporation.
They shouldn't be able to impose their religious beliefs.
Well, I will tell you this,
that's what
the court is wrong.
The
court is wrong.
they're absolutely
the court
right.
is dead
The Religious
wrong.
Freedom Act allows this to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, do we think, I mean, why did the attempt to override this in the Senate fail? And is there any chance they'll pass it in the future?
Well, my understanding was Harry Reid actually wanted it to fail because of the language in it, that he wanted to change some language around, and is going to bring it up again towards the end of the year.
So you think it'll pass this time?
Well, it depends on the midterms. It depends on who wins, and there's a strong possibility that the Republicans will take
But
the
aren't you
Senate.
talking
But if we
about
bring it up
passing-
again, before the new Congress would come in, that they're going to bring it up again.
I don't.
And,
What-
and
what-
you might
what-
have
I
a
mean,
better
what-
time with some people, go ahead, who are on their way out.
What about if this museum, for example, starts holding events just for members of Congress to try to persuade them on legislation? You don't have lobby them on legislation. You don't have a problem with that.
They've got all kinds of lobbying groups that go and they do that now. You don't have to have a museum. I believe what they're saying. They want a museum to recognize the historical values of the Bible. Why can't we take that? I mean, we accept that. I don't think we'd have as much noise around it if it was another type, for the Quran or.
Well, can I ask you something then?
Oh,
Why
yes,
was
there would
why
if it
was there
was
so
for the
much noise
Quran.
around a
Trust
mosque
me.
close to 9/11?
Because the individuals who killed over 3,000 people were extremist radical Muslims. So the issue is that, not to say that the individuals who would use that the mosque or the center rather are of the same cloth. But the fact is, it's like
But those terrorists terrorized Muslims as well. So basically, you're lumping
you're
all
rubbing
American
in the
Muslims.
face of the American people who died on 9/11.
Oh, but there
by
can be
putting
strip
something
bars
right
there, but there
next to
can't be an Islamic cultural center there.
There's a lot more history about the Bible than there is about any other.
Maybe the question ought to be, should we have some type of comprehensive policy of how close religious-based institutions or museums can be to the National Mall and that area? And maybe that's the question that needs to be addressed, and that would be something for Congress to look at.
All right, behind the headlines, female genital mutilation, or FGM, is an American problem. Activists say it happens in the U.S., but more often young girls living here are tricked by their families into summer vacations abroad to undergo the procedure known as vacation cutting.
These kids are innocent. They're your average American teenagers, sometimes younger than teenagers. And, when they go back and experience this and then they come back to face American teens, their friends at school, people that can't understand, even if they try to explain, it's just something that you can't talk about. Your life is changed forever.
The World Health Organization defines female genital mutilation as the partial or total removal of or injury to the female genitalia for non-medical reasons. As a 1-week-old baby in Gambia, Jaha Dukure was subjected to FGM. Now an American citizen, Dukure uses her experience to raise awareness of the barbaric practice.
Growing up and coming to America and discovering all the freedoms that we have in this country and all the liberties made me realize just how horrific this practice is and why we need to end it.
The United Nations declared FGM a human rights violation. It's been federally outlawed in the U.S. since 1996. Last year, vacation cutting became illegal under the National Defense Authorization Act, but a lack of enforcement and attachment to cultural traditions leave at least 228,000 American women and girls with or at risk of FGM, according to the 2000 U.S. Census.
In our cultures, virginity is very important, and when we go through FGM, parents think they're actually doing us a favor, because sometimes FGM is a condition for marriage. If you didn't go through FGM, no one would really want to marry you. And And sometimes it ensures your virginity until marriage because the fact that you don't desire sex.
FGM is most prevalent in Africa, the Middle East, and Western Asia. At least 8,000 girls are mutilated daily worldwide. Activists against FGM say it takes place on U.S. soil among illegal, undocumented immigrants.
Normally it's not done by doctors, and the instruments that are used are not sterilized, and sometimes they're used on a number of people. And in cases like that, it can lead to STDs and also infections and a lot of other health issues, even after you grow up.
Decorah recently joined Equality Now and members of the House of Representatives to highlight the problem of FGM in the U.S. and to call for action.
Just think of a young girl going through this unknowingly or without her permission to, in essence, change her life forever. It is said that FGM is to preserve the virginity of the girls and keep them pure until marriage. But it is really taking their spirit away, their life away, if you will, and their decision away.
Representatives Sheila Jackson Lee and Joseph Crowley are lobbying other lawmakers and the Obama administration to organize a national action plan that will end FGM in the U.S. within a generation.
We need to alert educators and counselors how to look for girls at risk and what to do about that. We want to explore a national hotline so people who know girls who are at risk can call in and find out how they can approach this sensitive issue. We want HHS to carry out a study of how many girls here in the United States are exposed to the risk.
Decorah says the most recent research is more than a decade old and needs to be updated, so she started a petition drive to spark government action.
You know, we're still trying. We're not giving up on this petition. We're not going away until they respond to it. Even if it takes 1 million signatures, we are going to wait for that day when America recognizes FGM as an American problem.
So, Anushay, how is the U.S. supposed to deal with this? I mean, honestly, all I can think of is screening people who come into this country, which would be, you know, an intrusive kind of questioning that would go on, and physical exams. And if you've been, or, you know, your culture is to engage in this horrendous practice, you can't come here. I mean, that's...
You know, we have to start with knowing what to look for, right? I mean, I can't tell you how horrifying it is. I've worked on this issue for so long in my career, and now having to understand that it's happening in America. I mean, we have to change our approach to, much like sex trafficking, viewing it as this problem that happens in faraway countries and an international issue, to really a domestic one. This is happening to American women and girls, and we really have to understand that violence against women knows no borders.
Yeah, but I mean, it's already against the law. Vacation cutting is against the law. What's the next step to enforce those laws?
Well, the girls have to know that they can go somewhere, right? I mean, vacation cutting, apparently the summertime that they go is known as cutting season. I mean, if the girls know that they can go somewhere here to get help, they need to alert the authorities before they get on that plane and before they're overseas. The rights that they have.
If they're 8 years old, I mean, how can you get them to alert the authorities? I'm just saying, to me, it's a problem sort of without a solution, unless we want to get really invasive in terms of whom we allow into this country.
Maybe it's not such a bad idea then in the initial period where you're talking about screening the people who are actually coming through immigration. Whatever steps we have to take, I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, a lot of these times, a lot of the women and girls that we've worked with, I mean, they're not even, they are cut by blades that are unsterile. I mean, this can give you long-term reproductive health.
It's really an issue of education. It's, I mean, nobody but an uneducated parent is going to let a child go through this.
Let me just say this, and I know this is more long-term, but having been to Ethiopia several times on this issue, and I met with the doctor who's basically wiped this out in southern Ethiopia, and it's through education. And now what's happening in Ethiopia is, unfortunately, the girls who were cut are no longer desirable as wives because the men found that the women who were not cut want to have sex more often because it's pleasurable. And they educated that, no, it's not easier for childbirth, which is one of the things they think. You'll have an easier childbirth also. So we're going to have to educate. we're going to have to step on some toes. People are going to say, back off, it's my religion, it's this. Not in the United States, it's not.
Not only
no,
that,
it's not.
you can't
it's
hide
a mutilation of someone.
You can't hide behind criminal activity under this veil of culture. It also shows how much we value women's virginity. This is what we really need to approach. Women's sexuality is really our business.
All right, that's it for this edition. Please follow me on Twitter and visit our website, pbs.org/tothecontrary. And whether you agree or think to the contrary, see you next week.